Hey everyone, welcome back to Rhythm Railroad. So this is part 3 of my intermodal yard project, and as you can see, I've gotten some stuff done. Not a lot. Working with plaster takes a while, especially in the summer months when it's humid and hot, because the plaster does not like to dry as quickly. So even though I have my AC down here, it does take a bit of time. So this took a few runs, probably about 3 or 4 coatings of plaster, because the first one is always very rough. You get a lot of holes and a lot of low spots. When you go through again, it looks a little bit more even, but then you still get little pockets here and there. And by the 3rd or 4th time you go through it, then that's when it really starts to come together and look more solid. Now I don't make it completely perfect, but I try to get at least pretty close. But you can see there's still some small imperfections. I'm not worried about that. That's I kind of welcome that, but I just don't want it to look like a hot like a, I was gonna say hot mess, but like you can see here, this is only the first coat. You can see how this looks really bad. So if I wanted to make it look bad, I'll go in myself and kind of damage it. But I like to start with a pretty solid surface first. So I'm pretty happy with this. I did use 2 different colors for this main pad to create a little bit of a weathering effect. The first one I used was this Rust-Oleum camouflage. It doesn't say what the name of the color is. I don't think any of them that are camouflage actually say it. But I thought this was tan originally. It's not. This is like between a tan and like a gray, which is cool because when you put it down on the plaster, it actually looks a lot like old concrete. But it's not a tan. I do have a tan, and it's a little more brown than this. But I don't know why the color name is never on the cans. You just got to go by the cover, or the cap rather. And then once I had that down, I went over it with I love this Age Gray but chalked spray paint by Rust-Oleum also. And this is like kind of like the real color I want, because I always like to go a little bit lighter intentionally, so that when I weather it really stands out. So it's a very light gray, but it gives the effect of that cement kind of look. So this is just a base coat. I am going to go back with in my airbrush and just kind of weather this a little bit more. Maybe some blacks, some browns, some dirt, and just tire marks and stuff like that with powders. So it's not done by any means, but I do want it to make it contrast between the main pad and the rest of the roads, or even that landing back there for the containers and the trailers. So the idea is that, from this point that way, it's all storage. Obviously, it's where you park, where the containers are stored and where the trailers are parked. And then this area that I haven't done yet is the main road into the facility. All right, so you come through the portal there, or the tunnel, and you go on this side. Now, if you have a something to load or unload, you would take it a little bit more over here where you see these empty chassis, and that's where the crane, which is now in place, would either load or unload from the cars, the train cars. But then as you go around here, the exit point would be, a turn, and then out this way. You can see a truck exiting right here. And then I'm eventually going to make a crossing here. I'll add more plaster, and this way you head out that way. But until then, I'm just kind of putting things down just to see the feel. I like to kind of live with it a little bit, just see if I'm okay with how it looks. But I don't like to do the whole thing without actually putting what's going to live there on the tracks or on the pavement or whatever. So this is kind of generally what it's going to look like, with a few more details, obviously. But these yards are very simplistic. There's not a lot to them. It's more about like what trucks are in here and what containers are in here, and like maybe little fences or maybe like a light post here and there. And obviously the crane is the center of attention. whether you have one or two. I don't think I need two in such a small, area here, but I have seen, some small, not that small, but quasi, like kind of close to this one, with two or three of those things. And by the way, the crane, I'm really happy with the color that came out. I used a yellow ochre by Vallejo. It's a, paint for airbrush, and I did use an airbrush to paint the whole thing. It just took a little while. I keep forgetting the airbrush doesn't come out as fast as, a rattle can. But, it does go on a lot smoother. And so I was happy with the way that came out, and I did weather it, as you can see. I put some rust on it, I put some dirt on it, some grime. But anyways, the only thing I haven't done is actually build the part that grabs the container or the trailer and picks it up and moves it back and forth. Everything else is there. I will be getting to that soon. But going back to the general progress here, in the last video I showed you that I left this part in the back kind of like open, and I had just, basically put in this part. So now that became, nice and cured, and it's hard enough to kind of rub your blade through there. What I was able to do was fill in the rest of it. As you can see now it's a full pad, because the blade was, big enough. I'm trying to see if I can find it. I don't know where it went, but anyway, here it is. So, basically that half the blade is on the covered part or the dry part, and half of it is on the void. So by putting plaster on this side of the blade and not so much on that side, I was able to kind of put it in there and then use this cured part as a guide. And I was able to get pretty flat. I mean, like I said in the last video, sometimes when you work with plaster, it kind of dips, it kind of sinks as it dries, and that's exactly what happened here. There is a little bit of a dip. So I'm going to go once that dries, and get it real even with this, and then all I got to do is sand it lightly to get rid of that seam. But the idea is to make all of this look like one big pad that was poured at the same time. This is the other pad that's poured at a different time. And then the road is going to be its own thing. So this main road here, I'll probably make it like a darker color, maybe like more like asphalt, or even the same as this, but just darker, like more weathered with more tire marks and stuff like that. And, since this only gets, containers dropped on there, very little traffic really, as far as like tires rubbing, I'm going to probably make it look different, make it look less worn out. But it might have more cracks and stuff from the containers being dropped on there, and, whatever. So the last thing I wanted to point out, if I didn't do that already, was that I did go ahead and widen this road, because originally it was only up to here. So that was going to be the exit road. And by doing this, it definitely looks better. You can see the trailer. It doesn't look like it's just, cramming in there just to barely clear the crane. Now it's got room. And once I get the plaster from here to here completely covered, it's going to look much better. Plus I can draw like, like lines, road lines, to make it look more realistic. I will be putting a barrier on this side though. Right now it's just a Jersey barrier there, just kind of sitting there, but I might do something like a wall, something more like this. I'm not really sure. I don't want to do like a high wall. I want to do something where you could still see, even when you take a photo, you can still kind of see most of it. I don't want this blocked like way up here. So, I got to play around with that a little bit and see what I like. And then, from there, the road's going to continue. There's going to be a crossing here. And then the exit will be the same place where the entrance was for that road. And obviously, I'll do the road marking so that it makes sense. I'm still kind of debating this connecting road that's going to go over the lower track, kind of like a bridge and out to another facility of some kind. But that can come later. I'm also debating what to do here still. I think I am going to go with the plan where the road kind of starts lifting here and goes up, and then I'll build like a big container yard here where it's simply just containers sitting there. And that shouldn't be hard to do. It's very simplistic, but very common in this kind of, era that I'm modeling. But while I was doing that, I kind of started thinking about other things, and that's why I like kind of putting things in place, because I started to get more ideas. So, it would be cool if the road went over here, right? But then there was a road that came through from that side, which is lower, through here, and it had a crossing on this line, which has nothing to do with the CSX line. This is the CPNS, the old DNH line. So that would be kind of cool if there was a road that just crossed through here and then just continued along the tracks, and maybe, I'll probably just curve it along this road here, and just make it disappear somewhere. Or maybe I'll just make it go through here like that, just kind of let it get cut off right there. But I think it'll make this look very city-like and very, a lot of bridges and crossings and roads everywhere and all that kind of thing. And obviously, when you get the buildings back there and other things, it'll look really nice. At least that's what I'm hoping for. But that's another project. For now, the retaining wall is going to stay there. It's just going to sit there like that. And, I'll keep playing with this until I like it. But I ditched the idea of making this go down and under, because either way, going over there, I'm kind of crammed with space. So it's like I was going to put a backdrop with containers, kind of making it look like containers continue that way, which would have been cool. But I can't find anything that's like really convincing. And, this is kind of like awkward to make this go down into there. And then, I can't really get 2 lanes. I can only really get 1 going in and out. And I know that's okay, but I don't know. It just seems a little forced. I'd rather just go up nice and wide, and I can still have the turnaround here, but I can make, the road go up along the wall here and then go over, or I might not do anything. I might just leave it like this. We'll see. It's good enough already. I'm already kind of happy with the way this looks. So maybe that's forcing it. Maybe I'll do something completely different on this side. We'll see. But in the meantime, this is where we're at, and this is what I'm focusing on. I'm also trying to get some ballast in. I kind of stopped there because I started to do the ballast and it was falling into the wet plaster, and it was sticking to the plaster. So that was a mistake. So I stopped until this is done and cured. I'm not going to continue that, but at least I got to paint the track with the Rust-Oleum brown all the way through to where I ended the ballast before, right there. So that's where we're at right now, and I'm going to leave it there. I'll see you in part 4. Take care.